Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. Today I'm going to have yet another movie review for you all, so hopefully you find this one interesting. This movie is a documentary from the UK, English language, released in the year 2015, directed by John Dower, and this film is called My Scientology Movie. So My Scientology Movie follows a very well-known documentarian, Louis Theroux, as he wants answers behind the most secretive and most destructive cult in modern history, as a lot of people say. Some other people will say it's a church that betters a lot of people, so it really has divided public opinion. So Louis Theroux can't actually get his documentary crew behind closed doors because David Miscavige, the leader, and his followers don't want anything to do with him. So he has to find another way to actually get his message across, and he does this by getting ex-members to document their stories through reenactment. So they get actors to portray the people that are in Scientology, and they're going to reenact certain events that actually made these members leave in the first place. And so as the movie goes along, Louis Theroux and his documentarians and also the actors realise that they're getting harassed by Scientology members who have been sent out in order to find out what's going on. And so it does become complicated, very funny as well, and it also goes to dark places that you're not expecting. And so what those dark places are and whether or not Louis Theroux can get the answers he wants is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on My Scientology Movie. I was very, very excited to see this film. Louis Theroux is my favourite documentarian, but I did have a little bit of scepticism based on the fact that television personalities don't translate very well when they're making feature films. Now Ricky Gervais is a case of this. His TV shows were brilliant, but when he makes movies, they just don't have that same charm. And so going from the TV world to the movie world is very different. They're two very different universes, and I believe that they're better staying in what made them so good. And so when they try to make that transition, I just don't think they possess the same quality that they had. And so that's the skepticism I came in Louis Theroux's first sort of feature film with John Dower. I thought, okay, is he going to lose what made him so good? And unfortunately, after seeing My Scientology Movie, he does lose that certain sense of quirkiness and charm. Yes, the movie is quirky. Yes, the movie is very funny, and it does possess Louis Theroux charm, but I felt as though this movie was more of a work of fiction as opposed to something realistic and thought-provoking. And I also thought it didn't really touch on new ground, which is something I'll go into a little bit later. But what I liked about My Scientology Movie was the very unique experience that I got from this film. And that was something that is a trademark of Louis Theroux. He is definitely someone who does things very differently, does things in a very surreal way. He documents people that you don't really talk about too much in his TV shows. He had people who believed in UFOs, people who were part of the West Barrow Baptist Church, you know, Nazis, all these people that society deems as undesirables, but he actually goes that extra step to try and humanise these people, and he does it in a very strange way that is very funny and at the same time very thought-provoking and quite powerful. And so coming into My Scientology Movie, I was hoping that he was actually going to do that, and he doesn't do that as much as I wanted him to, but I still thought the way that the movie does take a different turn as far as reenacting what's going on, thought that was very smart, very intelligent, and it's giving you a different sort of perspective. It's the perspective of these members who are actually shunned from the community of Scientology. And what I liked about Louis Theroux in this film and John Dower's approach is that they're not judgmental, is that they're actually staying very impartial, in that are these ex-members just disgruntled, is that Louis Theroux actually goes, he documents that these people are quite hurt by what Scientology has done to them, so are they embellishing these stories? And so that's something that the viewer can actually make out their own mind, and that's something that makes a very good documentary, and that's something Louis Theroux really understands, and that's what makes his television work so good, is that he's not judging these people. He's actually leaving it open for him to get their perspective, and you can make your own mind up as to whether or not these are undesirables or in fact misunderstood. And this movie does that to some degree, and that's what I really liked. I thought it was, as I said, it possesses the humour that a typical Louis Theroux documentary has, and it does go down some very dark and very unsettling moments. I thought there were some moments that are actually quite creepy, and that's something I liked as well, is that it does have a lot of different emotions in this film, and that's something that you would expect from such a brilliant documentarian as Louis Theroux is. But unfortunately, the movie doesn't really tread any new ground as far as Scientology is concerned. Is that, yes, it's a very interesting sort of thing to talk about Scientology. Is it a cult, or is it in fact a church that does better people? And yes, okay, so this is something that the world is talking about. You know, David Miscavige, the leader, he is a very mysterious figure, but the movie doesn't show you anything that you haven't seen before in Scientology documentaries. Is that, okay, that I wanted something a little bit new. I wanted a new insight, and I wanted a reason as to why this movie was made. But basically, it's giving you a different perspective on things that we already know. And so that was a little bit disappointing for me, is that I thought that it was just recycling stuff that I've heard before, and therefore it doesn't really contribute anything else to what is a very riveting talking point. And then you've also got the fact that it doesn't really translate very well from television to movie, because I thought that I was actually watching movie, that this is a work of fiction and not the realism that is portrayed so strongly in his television work. And so when you've got television personalities, I believe that they should stay in television because it suits what they're doing. And when they go into a movie, this is where I felt that this was a foreign thing for Louis Theroux, because it doesn't have that typical Louis Theroux charm and influence and to actually make you go and follow it. And so I thought that, okay, I was watching something a little bit different, and so the transition from television to movie wasn't as good as I really wanted it to be. So overall, if you are a fan of Louis Theroux, I'd still say definitely go out there and see it, but I was a little bit disappointed because, well, number one, it doesn't shed any new light on Scientology, and at the same time, as I said, the transition just didn't feel as right, and it just loses that documentary sort of quirkiness that Louis Theroux possesses. And so that was the biggest criticism of this film. It's not a great movie, but then again, it's still worth your time if you get the chance to watch it. So overall, for my Scientology movie, going to give this one 3 stars. I still enjoyed it. Go out there and see it. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.